Today we're going to talk about the number one root cause of all chronic disease. If you take a look at any disease, it goes through a cycle, and it starts with some root cause, and then it goes through a series of things inside your cells that start breaking down till eventually you develop a disease. In this case, it's type 2 diabetes. And what this video is about is addressing what medicine completely ignores. What medicine focuses on is the late stage symptom that occurs at the end of this evolution from start to actual disease creation. And so their whole goal is to label this disease, this symptom, and then treat it with a medication. The problem that I have with that model is that there's side effects that occur, and then those side effects are treated with another medication. That's called polypharmacy. And if you take a look at a nursing home or an assisted living home, you'll see people on 7 to 10 or more drugs, some people up to 40 to 50 different medications. And so my viewpoint is that the more medications you give a person, the less healthy they're going to become. And this really occurs because of the system. If they were to focus on root causes, you'd be able to prevent so many problems, but there's not a lot of money in focusing on a root cause. So now the question is, what is the root cause of chronic illness? I looked at this problem very deeply. I kept narrowing down the list and said, well, wait a second, there's an earlier thing to that. So that's not a root cause. And the list got shorter and shorter and shorter until I realized something. Our environment has changed pretty fast, but our genes did not catch up to that. We are in a completely different universe where you can get any food. It's available 24/7. Over 50% of the calories in adults is ultra-processed food calories, something that we've never experienced way back in the day. We are constantly feeding ourselves 24/7. There's not really any break between that. We pretty much eat constantly. We live in spaces with artificial light pretty much all the day until right before you go to bed at night. We are on our screens, jacking up dopamine virtually all day long. We are living in toxins like we've never before experienced. Even now it's called forever chemicals. It's in the water supply, unfortunately. And on top of that, we've really sterilized our food and our environments. And that child doesn't necessarily develop the immune system that they need. And they've done studies on this with the Amish. And they compared these kids raised on a farm with kids that were raised in more of a sterile environment. And they found there was a much stronger immune system in the farm kids because they were exposed to farm dust and dirt, which developed part of the immune system. And so the sterilization of the environment as well as foods, we pasteurize food. Let's just take milk, for example. Way back in the day, we did not pasteurize our milk. But way back here, they fermented their foods, right? And cheese, yogurt. And that really helps the diversity of microbiome. But what do we do in modern time? Even with kids, we'll give them skim milk that's pasteurized. It's not fermented. It's very unnatural, and kids will develop a lot of allergies to that. And many times we don't even allow the immune system to strengthen. We depend more on vaccines. But the point is that we constantly are bypassing Mother Nature, and a lot of times we mess it up. Way back in this period of time, we ate real food, plenty of nutrients. Here, a lot of the foods that we eat, ultra-processed foods, create nutrient deficiencies. So there are definitely epidemic levels of nutrient deficiencies right now because of that. Back here, we had a lot of physical work. And also, back then, we had a lot of sun. So we also had a lot of vitamin D. Vitamin D is the number one missing nutrient that our entire planet has. And it's creating a lot of problems. And then modern time, sedentary, right? We do a lot of sitting around with very little physical work. But think about the environment that we used to live in. A training camp for your immune system. Massively diverse microbiome back then. If you take a look at one of the most common illnesses right now, it's autoimmune diseases. I mean, we did not have autoimmune diseases 50 to 75 years ago. There is a genetic problem with autoimmune diseases. It's called HLA. I'm not going to give you the long name of what this is. This gene has the most diversified altered gene type in the entire body. And that's because this is really about exposing the immune system to various pathogens and microbes, friendly and unfriendly. This is a gene that helped you survive way back here, but it doesn't help you survive in modern times. And just to help you understand this a little bit more, I want to go through my genetics, okay? I had my genes tested just to kind of push this point home. Now, many of you may have gotten your DNA tested before. Some of you have not. It does give you some valuable information, what potential problems you could have if your habits and your environment are not quite right. So then you can align your actual biology with the correct things to do. But first, let me just tell you what's going on with my genes. I do have an autoimmune risk for gluten, and it just so happens to be part of this gene right here. So if I consume gluten, I'm at risk of getting an inflammatory issue with my gut. Every time we went on a vacation, my wife and I would end up in some bed in some hotel all night long with stomach pain because I would be eating a ton of wheat products with gluten. And I had really no awareness back then of the connection, but I sure do now. And I do not consume any gluten whatsoever. The second problem I had was with choline. Apparently, I do not absorb choline very well. Choline is really important in preventing a fatty liver, but it's also important in the neurotransmitter in your brain. And if you think about all these problems with these genes, they all had beneficial survival things back here, but they just don't work in modern time. Back here, we ate the whole animal, nose to tail. We ate the organs. One of the best foods for choline is liver. And so do I eat liver? No. I don't like liver, but you can get enough choline in egg yolks, and I have a lot of eggs. So that's what I'm doing to solve that problem. The next thing that showed up is I have a major problem with vitamin D activation. And so I also have a history of severe low back pain. I don't get low back pain anymore. I take a good amount of vitamin D through the winter, and I get a lot of sun during the summer. The next thing I have a problem with is inflammation from too many polyunsaturated fatty acids. So that would be seed oils. If I consume a lot of seed oils, I will just fill up with inflammation. And that's exactly what happened. Even in my 20s, I had so much arthritis in my fingers and my back, and I was just downing junk food. And I'm 60 right now, and I am way healthier now than I was back then. The next thing that showed up was my genes for inflammation, highly susceptible to becoming inflamed if I eat junk food. If I overtrain, I get inflamed right away. Now that's good and bad, because what happened, because I was eating so poorly in the first part of my life, I became such a cripple from inflammation that woke me up, and I was aware and I needed to change something, versus other people, it might not affect them initially, but later on in life, they might find out about it. So on the positive side, my immune system is strong to prevent against things like cancer, because my immune system can kill off cancer better than other genetics. But on the flip side, if I go off my eating plan, I become an inflamed cripple. I'm very susceptible to developing autoimmune disease, but only if my environment is not matching those genetics. Now, the next one has to do with my detoxification enzymes. Now, think about it. Back here, the level of chemicals was so much lower than right now. My genetics have not evolved to deal with the level of toxicity. So if I was a smoker and I drank alcohol and I exposed myself to a lot of chemicals, I'm going to feel it more than other people simply because of my weakness within the detoxification enzymes. What I should be doing to strengthen that is to not only avoid some of these toxins and have a better water filter and live in cleaner air and live on a farm, which I'm lucky to have that opportunity to do, but also consume foods that help naturally detoxify things like garlic, onions, which I do on a daily basis. Another interesting weakness that I have is that my genes have lower amount of nitric oxide bioavailability. Now that has everything to do with high blood pressure. So I have a tendency to get high blood pressure and more inflammation because I don't make enough nitric oxide, but I do because of all these other things I'm doing now. But if my environment was like I was when I was 20 years old, I would have a problem with nitric oxide. I'd probably have high blood pressure by now. And just so you know, one way to increase nitric oxide is to consume beets or arugula salad, but also sunlight. Sun can give you nitric oxide, and so can exercise as well. So now I'm going to show you 20 things to reset your habits and your lifestyle. Number one is to go outside and expose yourself to light within 60 minutes of getting up. And I'm telling you, out of all the things that can really mess up your health, it's poor sleep. Because if your sleep is not right, it can severely affect your blood sugar. It can severely affect your mood. The night shift as a thing is even classified as a probable carcinogen because of how important sleep is within the genetics of the entire body. And if you're outside and the sun's there, you don't ever want to just look into the light itself. You can look slightly away and the sun will kind of get into your eye. But also realize that the infrared that comes off the sun penetrates your body. It can go right through your clothes into your body, and it can actually increase melatonin. So this would be a very important thing to do in the morning, number one. Number two, you want to dim the lights 90 minutes before you go to bed. How many people have the lights completely bright, and it's usually fluorescent or artificial lights, all the way until they go to bed? Not good. You want to start dimming things, or even being in a dark room 90 minutes before you go to bed. This will start to reset this circadian clock, and it's going to really help the quality of sleep and a lot of other things. Number three, you want to lock the wake time 7 days a week. In other words, you want to be consistent waking up and also going to sleep. Your body does not like this change in when you go to sleep and when you wake up. I mean, let's just take jet lag, for example. You fly somewhere and all of a sudden you're in a different time zone. Boy, that just throws off everything. If you do have jet lag, I found if you take a big dosage, maybe 50,000 IUs of vitamin D3, right before you fly, those jet lag symptoms will be less, okay? But be consistent with your sleep all the time. Number four, put your workouts into a schedule to remind you to keep in regular exercise. Putting that back in is going to be super therapeutic at every level. Number five, no eating 4 hours before you go to bed. This might not exactly match what happened in the past, but it's a very good idea. Not go to sleep on a full bloated stomach. All right, number six, 6 to 8 hours of an eating window. So that would be a 16 or 18 hour fast, okay? This definitely matches what happened long ago because food was not as available. And there's probably days where we didn't eat, and there was probably times where we ate a lot in a short period of time, but it wasn't so consistent. And then when we start matching that, our bodies do so well. So keep that fasting window in because the frequent eating is a killer for insulin problems. All right, number seven is a 10 to 15 minute walk after you're eating. First of all, you're going to burn up the sugar. Second, you're going to be able to add more exercise. Super healthy, simple tip. Number eight, try to consume something fermented with every meal, whether it's kefir, yogurt, sauerkraut. Because of the diversity of microbiome, it's going to really, really help you. Unsweetened chocolate feeds the microbiome. I put that in my coffee in the morning. It doesn't have any sugar in it. Number nine is nature time 3 times a week. Very therapeutic to get out in the park, go in nature, go in the mountains. I actually do this every single day. I'm constantly walking. It's super, super healthy. Number 10, you want to get your hands in the soil, gardening. And I got myself into a really great situation where I'm able to live on a farm. And you talk about getting dirty. I am around a lot of microbes and I never get sick. My immune system is super, super strong. Number 11, if the environment that you're in is polluted, you need to get a house filter, a HEPA purifier, just to keep the clean air in your house. So when you're sleeping at night, you can breathe in clean air. And also you want to get a filter that pulls out as many chemicals as you can. Same thing with the shower filter. Now, if you can actually have mineral water or spring water, that would be awesome. But if you can't, just get a filter. Very, very important because the majority of chemicals come from your water. 13, fragrance-free hair products and skin creams and lotions and makeups without the fragrances, without the chemicals as much as possible. If you're cooking, use some cookware like stainless steel, that is not going to give off additional chemicals. Number 15, and this is probably the most important, no ultra-processed foods in the house. Number 16, you want to limit going out to a restaurant because you don't know all the ingredients, you don't know the oils that they use. It's really hard to avoid certain chemicals when you're going to restaurants, and especially fast food restaurants. Number 17, sauna or hot shower is very, very therapeutic to help to stimulate the epigenetics and create a micro stress in the body to help your body rebound and adapt. The same thing with the cold bath or a cold shower. Nasal